And we are live. What a game, guys. I'm going to bring Cody up here in a minute. But before I do, I'm for the first time just going live on Instagram with this as well. So for any Instagram people tuning in here or for the usual people, if you want to come up and talk about just this insane game, please DM me now. And we'll get you up here. I've got Cody and then Kyle scheduled to come up after. But yeah, I'm going to bring up Cody now to dissect this game. What's going on, man?
Just trying to.
I can hear. Oh, no, we've lost him already. I don't know.
All right, I can hear you.
Okay, we got Cody. Hey,
Cool.
the last message you sent me was, I can't even drink my water. I assume that's because you were shaking or something.
Dude, it's like that. It's like that meme where the guy's trying to drink his water and he's just shaking, his whole hand shaking. Yeah.
What just happened? Like
Misery,
I
misery, joy,
am
misery,
so
joy, misery, joy.
that was insane. Like, yeah, I can't even talk. But I guess let's just start. Like, we've got so many places to go here, but let's just start with where were you at after Bam Adebayo got away with holding Cade's arm and then Tyler Hero hit that? I think it was a layup or float. I can't even remember to put them up to. Take me through the rest of the game from your point of view there.
Well, my first question is, why is Malik Beasley the ISO defender on Tyler Hero? That's despicable.
Yeah.
He's giving up 2 or 3 inches and he's not a good defender. I don't have any idea. I guess maybe Cade dealing with the back spasms that probably played into it. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't see from the live watch that Bam held him down. So I didn't really notice that. But yeah, of course, I thought as soon as they won the tip, the Pistons were losing. I was like, yeah, they're going to lose. And then Tyler hits that shot, and I'm like, yeah, they lost. And then JB draws a ridiculous out of bounds play. I'm like, okay, great. We have to play double overtime, so chalk the Bucks game tomorrow because even if we win this one, the players aren't going to have anything left for tomorrow. And then Spo goes full Chris Webber, Fab Five edition with Jalen Rose in the house, which is very poetic. And calls the timeout he doesn't have.
Great tie from you. I didn't even think of that. But was it
Yeah.
Spo who actually called it? Because I was
Yes.
just talking to my girlfriend. Okay, it was him. Okay.
Yep.
Got you. Sorry, I cut you off there, but that was a
No,
great
yeah,
call.
it was yeah, Spo pulled a C web. And honestly, they should have had a tech before that inbounds play to JD because they had 6 guys on the floor.
Yes.
I don't know why they allowed them to just take Kevin Love off the floor. It didn't make sense to me. But I mean, it worked out in our favor because who knows? You get that tech, and then you have to take it out underneath. Pretty hard to run that play. So it worked out, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I got a lot of negatives I want to talk about. So I hate to break it to everybody after that big win, but I am very, very angry after that one.
Yeah, that was that they should have obviously won that in regulation. Like that shouldn't have even have had a chance. Like what were that? Was it 8 points with like a minute 55 to go?
9 points with a minute 30 left.
And then Tyler Hero hits 3 threes. The one to tie it up was crazy, but the two before that, I felt like the Pistons just let him get the ball far too easy. And, that was frustrating. But before we get to that, I do just want to note that the Pistons are now 5-7. It's their first NBA Cup win. I know like the NBA Cup's still a bit of a joke, but I still think that counts for something. And, I tweeted out like the Pistons aren't meant to win those games. Like not just this season, overall. Like, and I know they got some luck there with the timeout or the technical foul at the end there, but I think it's still extremely positive they got out of here with a win and that they go to Milwaukee with a win tomorrow, 5-7. I'm not sure where this puts them in the standings, but like there's plenty of negatives to get into, but the fact they won that after some of the close losses they've had, I still think we can feel good about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can feel good about it, but I mean, you got to call it. It's a gifted win. Like they should have lost.
Yeah.
Point. Like, I mean, you can argue they should have won, but a team that
Ooh,
blows a 9 point lead with a minute and a half left deserves to lose that game, in my opinion. Like that's just you can't allow that. You cannot. And everybody on Twitter is like, "Well, Tyler Hero didn't go God mode, dude. You needed one bucket in 4 possessions, one basket in 4 possessions. You win
and it
that
was
game."
I think the disappointing thing there was that there was the turnovers. It's like you weren't even getting shots up half the time from memory,
Yeah,
and
no, it
that
was a
was
Tobias.
a killer.
Yeah, it was a Tobias turnaround brick and then two
Yeah,
turnovers. Like you
yeah. So
can't have it.
that's if they're missed shots, it still hurts, but the turnovers, yeah, they actually so they controlled the ball really well. I think like entering the fourth, they only had 9 turnovers, which for this team is actually really good. And maybe the bar's too low there, but I'm gonna check what they finished with. But yeah,
I think in the fourth quarter and overtime they had over 10.
yeah. Well, there you go. So, like, I mean, I think the luckiest person tonight out of all of this is probably Cade. Like that, the start of that overtime, I was like, is he like, is this was it a back injury or something he was dealing with?
Back spasms.
Like, so I get why you might have been a bit loose with the ball, but some of the like I was just sitting there like, wow, he's actually going to choke this away. I just I didn't have any other reason for like why he's causing these turnovers. It's just really hard to
Yeah.
watch there for a minute.
I mean, he needs to get like who made a good point, and I agree. He needs to get like Tatum added into his arsenal like 2 years ago. It's been very beneficial for him. He needs like a low gather rip through when he's going to the
Yeah.
rim. He for some reason he always tries to dribble in and then take it to his chest. If he can
Yeah.
keep that low and get a rip through and then go up, he'd probably drop more fouls and he'd probably have less turnovers. But he's always trying to bring it to his chest every time. I don't know why that's. He needs to get that in his game.
I'm not. Honestly, there were so many of these plays. I can't even remember. But like he said, I think it was in the overtime. He tried to drive, put his head down, and it was it led to that jump ball. Exactly, kind of what you outlined there, where he brings it to his chest, and I think Highsmith and Bam just kind of were able to just get their hand to the ball and force the jump ball. But yeah, he needs to figure out some things on his drives. But then there was that other one where Terry Rozier just like leaned in and picked it. Like that
Yeah,
one. That one hurt even more because that's at like half court. Like,
yeah, and
but
I was not happy with them getting into their action at 17 seconds. Like, why are you
yeah,
getting into
real
your action at
interesting.
17 seconds?
Yeah,
The difference between shot and game costs 4 seconds, and you're initiating at 17. Why?
yeah,
Why? That's almost
yeah.
like
No, I,
that's like almost playing for a miss and hoping you have time to foul. But the game's tied. It's like you're almost like playing. You're almost like trying to play a 2 for 1 weirdly, which you can't
yeah.
do there. It's a weird. It was a weird spot for them to initiate that
I
early.
mean,
I
I
didn't
think
like it at all.
the Heat all the time, just that zone they run. I don't know if it's a 2-3 or a 1-3-1, whatever it is, but they as soon as they run zone, it's just the Pistons struggle. They get bogged down, and I know that's the point of the zone, but yeah, some of those forced passes into like the high post or that, that is so frustrating. Like,
Yeah,
um,
I mean,
and Miami are just like they're annoying guys. Like they're gritty. They're reminding me of the Rockets, just with all like the bumps, the like slight reaches, like just this like credit to them, but it's just so frustrating to watch when especially against a turnover prone team like the Pistons. Like it's it leads to a
yeah.
lot of frustrating basketball. Um, I want to go to bring it back to a positive. I thought end of the third, 2 minutes left, Cade checks out. I think the Pistons were only up like 3. And I thought Jaden Ivey and some of the vets, I think it was Malik Beasley, um,
And Simone Fontecchio.
and Fontecchio, yeah. They got it that from that point on to whenever Cade got back in. I think they got it to 12 at one point. I thought that was huge because the Pistons, after like that first quarter, they led by 10 or so. It was just they didn't have much momentum. It felt like I thought that was a huge stint. I thought Ivy there after the game we last spoke about, like couple of nice floater, mid-range jumper, step back three in transition, which I was like, oh no, but he made it. I just thought he really stepped up there in that 4 or 5 minute period to just give them that buffer to withstand that hero barrage at the end.
Yeah, Ivy was my player of the game personally.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good leading the second unit. Deep into the fourth quarter, like they held that lead for a while to let Cade figure out what was. And it's not often that you're rooting for Cade to come off the bench and then everything goes downhill as soon as he checks in. Like as soon as Cade checked in, it got so much worse. Like it was like it's not your usual. It's just more fuel to the Cade's not clutch fire. What happened
Yeah.
tonight? I'm not going that far, obviously, because he's shown clutch moments, but he has to do better. You can't have. I think he had four or five turnovers in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah.
You can't have a game's worth of turnovers in the clutch.
No, absolutely. The 2 at the start of overtime, maybe even 3, and then definitely 2 in the fourth. Finished with 7 turnovers. Yeah. But like you've
Yeah,
said on previous streams, it's like it's the turnover numbers, keep an eye on them for sure, but it's more about the actual turnover itself. Like I remember you've said in the past, like if he throws it out of bounds and it's a dead ball, not ideal, but you can live with that because he's a high usage guy. But it's those ones like the ones we've just gone through, that the 4 or 5 in crucial moments that just are killers.
yeah. Live ball turnovers in the NBA are absolute killers. The teams are too athletic. They're too good at getting up and down the floor. You can't have live ball turnovers in the NBA. You just can't. You can't be a good basketball team and have them. You just can't. I mean, it is what it is. I hope he's okay for tomorrow. I hope it's just literally back spasms and he can get hydrated and you know get back out there tomorrow. Yeah, 'cause it'll be tough tomorrow. We'll need a big effort from a lot of guys after playing a ton of minutes tonight.
And speaking of kind of availability and that kind of thing, just a shout out to Tim Hardaway Jr. I think we all hope he's okay because that was pretty scary. I thought it hit the blood. The bleeding was initially coming after the elbow we got from Bam, but obviously it turned out to be the Jalen Duren knee to the back of the head. So yeah, he had to be taken off in a wheelchair. So hope he's okay, but I would assume we won't see him for the next few games.
Yeah, I would assume he's out till next week.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense to me.
I mean, he was playing pretty well. I mean, he's been good all season, so that's going to be a huge, huge loss because we haven't even really spoken about the Asar news from yesterday. But like, I don't anticipate Asar being ready in the next 10 to 14 days. Like, I think that's at
I don't
least.
know. I could see him playing next week. Spot minutes. Yeah,
I hope so.
just spot minutes. Again, I don't think he's going to come in and no matter when he plays, I don't think he's going to come in and play 25, 30, 40
Yeah,
minutes a game. Like he's not going to get those kind of minutes. But I could see him playing next week, 10 minutes. Because like I get he needs to ramp up to 5-on-5 conditioning, but like at the same time, he's 21 years old and he's been working out the whole off season. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to believe that Azar couldn't go hard for 10 minutes, especially if
yeah,
it's 2 5-minute spurts. Like I can't imagine he can't go for that. And I think JB's going to want to reintroduce him to the rotation as soon as possible.
yeah,
But actually, that was going to be my next point. Is like, man, I am on my knees praying for Azar to come back now because that hero nonsense does not happen if Azar's on the
yeah.
court. JB literally would tell him, go to Azar and be like, hey, go get on him, stick on him, don't let him shoot. Take him out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we don't have in the wing right now. We don't have that guy who can just, okay, this guy's going off, like LaMelo. Go get on LaMelo, hound him. Just
Yeah.
don't let him get the ball.
Literally.
Like they just don't have that.
Just, like you said, like even with Beasley at the end there, like even at his best, he just doesn't have like the length. Like he's just not big enough. Like he's a shooting guard. And I know Tyler Hero's a shooting guard, but like the way he elevates and can shoot over people, like
He's a bigger shooting guard though too. Malik's on the
yeah.
smaller side. Tyler's on a
Yeah.
little bit on the bigger side.
Yeah, no, I like you said, like I think it's going to be like some form of minutes restriction, like 10 to 15 minutes for the first few games or whatever. But when he's able to play 25 minutes a game, like there's going to be so many happy Pistons fans watching him on defense.
More.
Like Well, do you think, like, I think the Asar conversation is really interesting, even if it's still, he's not going to play for another few games. But do you think the moment he can play 25 minutes plus, he's starting with what you've seen so far?
The only thing I worry about is obviously the spacing concerns with him and Durant.
Yeah.
And it was a concern last year. It's still gonna be my concern.
I mean,
But the nice thing is you do have the ability to go Tobias, Cade, and Ivy, or you'll have lineups with Tobias, Ivy, Beasley, Cade, THJ. So they have more
yeah,
options to plug him in certain spots where you still have three guys who can space the floor and shoot it. Whereas last year was really tough to because if I'm pulling this out of my head right, the stretch where they got to play where he got to play with Fontecchio, I think Cade, Ivy, Fontecchio, Asar, and
Duran
Duran lineups were
was
like
really good.
plus four. It was like plus 4.8 on the net.
I think it was more. It was good.
Yeah, I thought I heard Kusei on a podcast recently that it was like plus 4.8, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong on the number. Either way, it was the Pistons obviously didn't have a positive net rating last year, so any lineup
Yeah.
that generates a positive net rating is a pretty good one for the team.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, look, the starting five, I actually don't know what the numbers say, but the starting five they have has been fine. I think because you're gonna have the same spacing issues with this version of Stu anyway. So I think you probably could start Asar, but Tim Hardaway Jr. is the guy you take out who's been like the best, most consistent shooter on the team. So um yeah, I guess like him playing 25 minutes as in Asar is probably still a few weeks away at least, maybe. But yeah, I
Well, when
can't
he's
wait. I
playing,
cannot
when
wait
he's
to
playing,
see.
when he's playing with Stu, I think you get Azar more involved in the pick and rolls, and
Yeah,
then you get maybe secondary pick and roll options with Stu instead of diving, he's rolling to a catch and shoot opportunity. I know he
yeah,
hasn't shot many jumpers this year, but I think Stu is still capable of knocking down a 3-pointer every once in a while. I just
yeah,
don't want the same thing to be happening last year where they use Stu or Durant in the pick and roll every possession and just park Sar in the corner. That's
yeah.
not
No.
because this team is desperate for secondary creation. They're desperate for it.
Oh,
Like you need it when Kane and Ivy are on the floor together. When they do have secondary creation between the two of them, you don't really have secondary creators. You need a star to be able to have opportunities to become a secondary creator out there.
well, I mean, I think that's been a big gripe with fans is like Fontecchio, Beasley. Like, I mean, I get frustrated when they put the ball on the floor in those situations you just mentioned, but there's kind of no other option. But it's becoming so glaringly obvious every game that those guys just can't. I think they can pump fake one dribble in, pull up, but any more dribbles and it just becomes messy and there's turnovers. So I think Asar's going to have plenty of those opportunities. And it's going to be just really interesting because we literally have not seen JB Bickerstaff for one game or practice or anything be able to have Asar. So we don't really know how he's going to use him. We can only go off what he's said. So it's going to be interesting to see how he implements him because, yeah, you can't just have Asar standing in the corner. Like, doesn't help
Yeah, I
anyone.
don't. I don't care how much of Fred Vincent's voodoo magic's been worked on. I'm still guessing that shot is not very good yet. So
Oh,
it looks smoother
absolutely.
though. It looks smoother though in the videos I've seen. It looks smoother.
I mean, there's every chance that even if the form looks better, like the percentages could even be worse just for a little bit because it's like new. So I do hope people aren't expecting him to be like shooting 30% in his first game from three or that type of shooter. I think it's
I
still
mean,
a
it's
bit
not
of
like they need him to be. It's like he's taking over Ron Holland's role, but in a larger sample, and Ron Holland can't shoot. So
no. Um, what else did you want to talk about tonight?
um, I it I was 50-50 the whole game about Durant. I thought he had a lot of bright moments. Obviously, the finish at the end.
Yeah.
But in the fourth, as soon as Stu checked out, they went right at Durant. They
Yeah.
immediately went at him. Like Spo was over there licking his chops. He's like, Durant's at the scorer's table. Drop a play for Bam right now.
Yeah.
Like they went at him immediately. And not that Bam's not a tough cover; he's a really good player. But
Yeah.
like pe- people still see him as fish or as food,
Yeah.
and that's the tough part. But he did grab some massive boards tonight, um, and you can tell that. I mean, regardless, I think he's still a better option for this team than Paul Reed
Yeah.
overall. But um, I thought he was just getting picked on a little bit too much defensively, and that's where Stu really wins out. But that's nothing new that we haven't talked
It's
about.
yeah, it's interesting. I thought like he had some really key moments. There's just Paul Reed and Stu. Like Reed's obviously a bit more athletic than Stu, but there's just plays that like Durant even in transition at one stage, I think got a lob from Cade. Like when he runs, like you can't like he's such a good outlet when he's available, like to score around the rim, which is like I really noticed it tonight because it hasn't been there for 2 games. But and I thought he actually made some really nice passing reads tonight.
Oh,
But
great, dude!
yeah,
The backdoor cut to Fontecchio.
yeah,
That
that
was a
one.
great look.
So it's like, I mean, once again, you look at the box score: 8 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, only one turnover. Like I think we're just looking at him with a new lens this season because of what this team desperately needs from him defensively. But on offense, I think he was fine tonight. The free throw shooting completely disappearing is crazy. Like I think now he missed
Weird,
two.
yeah.
I knew he was going to miss at least one of those. And even last season when he was shooting 77%, maybe the moment gets to him there, but he missed both tonight, and that just yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it
he's got to be at or below 50% now for the season,
yeah
which
yeah.
is tough.
So like yeah, I think like it's I think he was fine. Like, but like you
Yeah,
said, they went straight at him. JB brought in Stu, I think, for the last 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Brought out Duran. So yeah, we'll see how he goes
it's
tomorrow. Brooke Lopez will be a bit of a challenge,
yeah,
but
it was just a really weird game where I don't think anybody played really well besides Malik and Jaden,
yeah,
and like I think everybody else was kind of like ho hum, and yet they won and scored over 120 points. Now, granted, with the benefit of an extra 5 minutes, but I was looking at. Oh, I guess Fontecchio was fine. He made a
yeah,
couple big jumpers, but it was one of those really weird games where I was like, because even Tobias, who had like probably 17 or 18 points, I didn't think he played very well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was
No,
just
I'm
one of
with
those
you.
weird games, where I was just like, I really don't think anybody played particularly well, and we won. So like that's a positive anyway. Like it wasn't like one of those glaring games where you had like two or three guys jump off the page. You're like, damn, they played really well.
Yeah,
Like because even Ivy, there was still some times where he made some boneheaded plays that I didn't care for. And
yeah,
Beasley, he's gonna shoot or shoot. He frustrated me a couple times when they had a big lead uh, early in the fourth, and he was taking those one dribble pull ups, which I know
yeah.
drive you nuts. They drive me nuts as well. It's like you can get a better shot than that, especially that early in the shot clock.
But the amount of times I'm on the verge of firing off a negative Beasley tweet, it's I just have to rein it in because he made that clutch three. Like he makes plays, but I don't know. I don't even think it's fully his fault. Like you brought up with like the secondary creation, like when it's just one of Kate or Ivy out there, like it kind of gets to a point where at some stage someone else has to make a play, and it normally ends with him, and I get frustrated, but I think overall he was one of the best tonight. And I agree
Yeah, and
with
the
you. I
thing.
think no, you
Oh,
go.
God. I was just gonna say I think I can't even be mad at Beasley anymore because like every NBA team has two or three guys that are just volume 3 point shooters. You got to have those guys in your team, make or miss. You got to have those guys who can put up 8 or 9 a game and have the potential of hitting 4, 3, 4, 5
Yeah,
or more if they're super hot. Like you have to have those guys in today's NBA who can get volume from the 3 point line and hit them consistently. I know a couple games this year he shot really rough from three, but it's like who's a better option? I mean, you got THGA, Tobias is starting to hit his, but
yeah,
like Ivy's not a volume 3 point shooter. Cade's not a volume 3 point shooter. Tobias really isn't even a volume 3 point shooter. You really got THJ and Beasley, and
yeah,
I think you have to live with their misses one way or another because that's literally what they're paid to be on this team for is to shoot threes.
yeah. No, well, then he got 17 shots up tonight, 5-11 from three, huge three at the end. Yeah, I think it's in the moment when I'm watching him, it just drives me crazy. But when I zoom out, it's he's been one of the better players this season easily. Um, I've got Kyle ready to go, but I wanted to just turn it to you, Cody. Any final thoughts? Like I said, Pistons 5-7. I still think that's a very good position for them to be in. Probably about where most optimistic fans probably thought they would have been after this schedule. Just where are you at? Or any other final thoughts?
I'm fine with it overall. I just really want this team to start when they get these big leads. Like obviously in the NBA, it's really hard to hold giant leads. I mean, the Celtics blew a 15-point lead in the middle of the third quarter night to the Hawks. All these guys are so talented. It's really hard to hold these giant leads on. But like when you're up nine with a minute 30 to go, finish the game in regulation because you got a back to back tomorrow. You're going to play Milwaukee. Milwaukee's dog walking the Raptors tonight. They might even have an opportunity to sit their guys late. I mean, getting out in regulation might be the difference between a win and a loss if you're playing a tight game there. So like that's really hard. That's a really hard pill to swallow when it's not like you hit a three or something to force it to overtime. So I just really hope this team gets a little bit more prepared and mentally ready for these clutch moments because I mean we've seen it all year now. They tighten up really bad in these close games, and you hope
Yeah,
that now that they've got a couple that went in their way in their favor, like okay, we know we can win in these, but let's win them cleaner. Let's play cleaner basketball. So I was thinking the same thing I thought of in that Hawks game when they were up late and then Cade threw that outlet to Beasley and
bounce
turned it
pass.
over. I'm like, you guys have there's a minute 30 left on the clock. Work the shot clock. Why are we rushing into these early shots of possession? No one possession they didn't. Tobias had a horrendous shot late in the shot clock. But please just execute down the stretch.
Yeah,
Run better sets, get good shots, and make one you make one basket. We're coming on I'm coming on here at least in a completely different mood.
yeah.
Oh yeah, he made the run at the end. Tyler went God mode, didn't matter. We won in regulation, and it wasn't even that sweaty. We won by four or whatever because it would have been like a 4 point game. But now I have to come on here and be Mr. Negative because they blew a 9 point game with a minute and 30 left. Like they do this to me. I don't want to come on here and be negative. I want to come on here and sing their praises, show up from the rooftops. But yeah, that's my general thought. I think tomorrow's probably a loss just because of the circumstances. Cade's got back spasms. You're not going to have THJ. Asar's not going to be back yet. I just think probably it'll be one of those special Giannis performances. But we do have the Giannis stopper and Stu, so who knows?
We do. That is a great shout at the end. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, you just want to see. Like, I think has every single win been like this? Like, like have we
Not
had
the
a
Sixers.
win?
Not the Sixers. The Sixers game wasn't this
Okay.
bad at the end.
So that the other four
And the
wins,
and
I
the
just
lake
feel
and the
like.
Lakers and the Lakers and the Nets
Oh no,
really.
they won. Yeah, sorry, they've had three double-digit wins. Maybe it's just been the past week and a half. It feels like every game's been decided by like 2 points. That's just
Yeah, I mean,
exhausting.
pretty much. I mean, it's
It's
yeah. I
the last.
I like I messaged you. I mean, I can't afford 20 years off my life, and that's the way the season's going. We're literally 12 games in, and we have had at least nine sweaty games in 12
It's
games.
crazy. It's crazy. It's look, compared to last season, obviously it's good to be in this position, but we can still talk about the emotions in the moment. Yeah, I'm like, this game nearly killed me. If they had a lost this would have been the most negative version of
Yeah.
me you'd see, but
If
they
they had,
won.
if they had won a couple more of those early games, I'd be like, dude, screw it, throw in the next game. I can't handle this anymore. If you want to lose the night by 12 and it not be super competitive, I can
Yeah,
relax for a night because this is really wearing on me. Or if you want to win, or if you want to give me a Lakers W, well, maybe more like a
yeah.
Nets W, give me one of those too. Just I can't handle the absolute down to the minute, down to the wires stuff anymore. I can't do it. It's killing me.
Well, at least we've gotten a couple of wins in two of the past three. So, but I'm with you. I'm grateful for the wins, but it doesn't mean they're not killing me a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna get Kyle up here, but thank you so much, as always, Cody, for joining us. Tell the people they can find you and all that, and I'm sure you'll be back the next game or very soon.
Yep. Twitter, no fly zone 906. I'll be still live tweeting along, living and dying with every shot like you guys. And like I said, come on, like, subscribe, and get up here. Come on, people. I say it every stream. Come on. We need to hear more. We need to hear from more people. It can't just be me being Mr. Negative after every game. You're gonna win. It just can't be me. There's got to be more positive people out there. That's all I have to say. There has to be.
I love it. I love it. What a good way to finish. All right, Cody, you enjoy the rest of your night, man, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Catch you
All
later.
right, see you, bro. Bye. All right, Kyle, what's going on, my friend? How you feeling?
Here we are.
Thank you for waiting, but yeah.
Yeah, no problem, man. Gotta let Cody get it off his chest. He needs the therapy. You know what I'm saying? That's my guy. But yeah, man.
Yeah, just
glad to be
talk
here.
me through your thoughts, emotions. How you feeling right now? About half an hour now since the game finished.
Dude, it was one of those things where like I was just so mad. I just wanted to go to bed. I was like, can we just end this game now? Like after they gave up all those points at the end of regulation, Cade looked terrible. I tweeted it out like I think JB should have benched Cade just out of principle. Like I don't know how you build a culture of accountability and like he comes down, turns the ball over like what 3 possessions in a row. Looks awful.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just for a play, like get him on the bench, tell him to calm down, and like whatever. Like you got to do that. If you're not holding him accountable, I think you start losing people real quick.
No, I feel you. The only reason I thought he might not have done that is because of Ivy's foul trouble. But I'll be honest. I think that 1 minute stretch that you just talked about, where he had 2 turnovers or 3 turnovers, that's probably the lowest, most negative I've ever felt about Cade. Like just in that 2 minutes, I was like, wow, I've never seen him just play this bad in this sort of time period.
Right.
It's just,
and he's got the back spasm. Like there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it's even more where it's like,
yeah.
And maybe that's why JB didn't do it because everyone knew he was fighting through something. So like,
yeah,
it's not like hey, you're not taking this seriously. So maybe that's the reason he's a coach and I'm not. Right. I'm just saying like, it didn't look good. And so it's hard to feel good about that one. I'm with Cody in that. Like we went to overtime, I did not feel good. They looked terrible in overtime, and then I just couldn't help but just laugh at the end of the game. Like this is just like one of those like, what did I just watch? Like I don't even feel good about it. But it's a win.
I mean,
they're 7th in the standing. They're on a 34-win pace. They get a first win in the cup. Like. And I kind of have them doing well. I think they're going to actually do pretty well in the cup. I think they're going to be a sleeper because I think it's something they care about and it's going to help them prepare for like a play-in thing. So I think that's how the team's going to like talk about it. Like it's an elimination style thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
No, it's such a weird game. Like I'm definitely gonna sit down and watch back the 4th quarter and overtime just to see just to make sure the things I was feeling. Because sometimes when I'm watching it, the emotion just takes over, and I'm like you just can't. You almost don't even want to watch it, but you can't take your eyes off it. As like the turnovers were bad, but yeah, I mean, I think the only reason I don't feel too bad about it is because like I'm just at a point where a win is a win for this team. Like a win is a win. I don't care. I literally, unless it's like the Wizards or one of those other real bottom, like the Blazers or someone like. I don't care who's suiting up for the other team. It doesn't matter. Jimmy Butler didn't play. Like as long as they win, I will find it hard to be too negative. But in saying that, everything you've said, everything Cody said is definitely so valid. And I get why people feel like that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel better that it's a win, right? Like everything else, like I would have been super mad if everything ended the way it did. Like, and also just knowing like, the way they started out, like I think I put this in the comments, but like I like messaged some people. They had like 9 points. Like he had 9 points, like deep into the first quarter. It was like they 4 minutes left or something like that. I'm like, Pistons are gonna hold these team to 70 points. Like Their defense looks legit. And then, of course, as soon as I said that in like the group chat, it was like they score 8 points in the next like 20 seconds. It's like, oh, never mind. It was crazy.
No, I was thinking that as well because I was like, well, like, because the Pistons offensively in that first quarter weren't amazing, but their defense looked great. And I was like, oh, wow, this is just going to be a game where they win like 95-80 or something. But as we know, no lead is safe with this team. I think they're up by as many as 12 in the fourth. And then, look, that Tyler Hero stretch was crazy. Like, without Asar, there's no one who can guard him. But, yeah. I thought once he hit that
NBA
three
too.
to tie it up, I thought they were going to get it. Thought the Heat were going to win.
Yeah. Well, and that's the new NBA. Like 20-point leads are like the new 10-point lead. Like with the way teams shoot, like, and with just the frequency, just the pace, like it is just what it is. And that's not a bad thing. But yeah, if you can't trust the lead clearly ever. Especially with this team, but anyone in the NBA, right? Like that's just normal. So just exciting, but also like, man, I agree with Cody. Sometimes I just want to be able to like, hey, they're up by 15, they're up by 20, they're up by whatever's like, I can just watch this and enjoy it and be nitpicky about the X's and O's and kind of see, no. It's just, I'm getting mad because there's a foul that it's getting called. It's like, it was fun.
No, well, I think, the past 5 games have just all been like, absolute nail biters, like constantly, like, they got out to a 12-point lead tonight, but it feels like for much of the game, it's like 6 points, 4 points. Pistons got by 7. The other team hits 2 threes. Like, it's just, they've been so close for most of the night. It's just like, it's hard to watch as a fan. Like, I'm grateful that in all these games, but it's like at the same time, like sometimes I just would like to relax a little bit.
Well, especially because they had an 18-point lead, right? Like if it had been that way the whole game, I wouldn't feel a way about it. Like it's like it's tight. It's a young team. They're having to learn how to play in these close games. Like that's good for them. But man, if you're up, again, you get an 18-point lead, you're playing solid, like, and then all of a sudden just crash and burn, and it's just like it wasn't even like obvious what happened. Like it wasn't like Cade came out and now they fall up. Like it kind of was that, but like. Yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit hard to follow like what exactly happened, but I think something with Duran, to be honest. But we can get to that in a minute.
Well, I guess what was your main positive for the night? What's got you feeling good about that game? I know you said you're not feeling great, but there has to be a couple of things, or at least one.
The defense really does look good, and the numbers back it up. I think they're like first in points per game or something like that, or like top 3. They're above average defense in terms of like net rating, things like that. So like that's really encouraging. And that's fun, like that they're starting to have an identity. I mean, the creativity on the out of bounds play, like obviously the lob to Duran, like that was amazing. Like that's JB, that's stuff that we never saw Monty do. I'm kind of salty because the last, like they called the timeout late in that. I can't remember if it was overtime or fourth quarter, but then they like immediately turn it over or something.
And
it should have been a foul, probably. Like honestly, and it probably should have been off on Highsmith. I don't even know how like they called it off on the Pistons, but like that's the kind of stuff you can't waste those like after timeout play opportunities. But clearly they took advantage of that at the end, put them in a position to win off of a crazy fluke. Eric Spoelstra making a mistake he probably never made in his life.
Can I just confirm it was definitely Eric Spoelstra who called that? Wow.
Yeah, I saw some pictures, some grainy pictures on Twitter now, and I think in his post-game interview he owned it. I saw somewhere too. So yeah, definitely was Spoelstra.
So because I guess in his mind it was 122 all, I think, was it 122 or 121, 120, whatever it was. It was tied up. Yeah. They had 1 second. Yeah, I think if he doesn't call that, we're obviously going to double overtime. I don't think they're getting a shot off full court. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, how do you think if this goes to double overtime? What do you think the result is?
No chance.
Yeah.
Like all the momentum is with the Heat. They're barely hanging on. Like they had a few. Like yeah, like it wasn't like neither team was playing great. So I shouldn't say it's like obvious, but like I have more confidence that Bam or Hero are able to stop the sloppiness for more often than what the Pistons bring, especially the way Cade was playing.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Beasley or someone else to be able to do it again, save their butts again,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, there was that overtime, like there was the turnovers at the start, but I thought as well, like Cade hitting that mid-range that he got fouled on, like that was huge, especially after he just had like probably the worst minute of basketball I've ever seen him play. And then that Beasley 3 was massive. Like it's just there was so many big moments, but there's also just so many bad moments that are going to be stuck in our mind from that game. Like, and I think that's why ultimately we're just feeling weird.
Was Cade's chase down block in the regulation or was that in overtime?
I think that was overtime.
I think it was either that or the fourth quarter because it must have been overtime because he turned the ball over. He turned the ball over, which led to the run out, and then he got the block from behind, but then they immediately got the rebound and he got the rebound and put it back up because there was no one else. I don't remember, but like that was one of those things I remember thinking like amazing defensive play, but also this is your fault, right?
Yeah, I know.
like that doesn't make up for it.
I will give Cade a shout out there. Yeah,
go ahead.
I think he's on pace for like easily to have the most blocks in a season for his career. Still very early, but I think he'd be averaging one a game now. Like he had that one earlier in the game where he actually fell asleep and the Miami player, I think it was Jaime Jaquez, like kind of slipped and then Cade came out of nowhere and blocked it. So I'm like, I know he still falls asleep sometimes off ball, but I think defense for him overall has been one of the big positives, I think, this season. Even when it's coming off a turnover like that.
Yeah.
But sorry, I cut you off there.
I was thinking he is just under a block per game at this point. Just for quick. But yeah, and my other immediate thought was tell me why Cade Cunningham is a better rim protector than Jalen Duren. Can we just have that conversation? Because it's getting a little crazy.
I mean, I think being a rim protector as a big is a lot harder than being a rim protector as like a guard when you can just do it every so often. But yeah, I think JG's problem is he's just out of position all the time. And I also don't think he is as athletic as advertised. I think he's really strong and he's got massive shoulders. But the thing that separates like him from like a Dwight Howard type, like Dwight could get off his feet really quick. Durant still is like very athletic for a guy his size. I just don't think he has the quickness, especially laterally, which is why I think he struggles in the pick and roll and that kind of thing. And it is why he's late to contest shots. But that's all I can think of. But
it's interesting because I think you're right. Like athletically, he's super athletic, but it's slow. It's not quick.
Yeah,
you can't. Exactly. He gets up slow. Like there's things from like, how are you not blocking this? Like because he gets like it's like the height that he ends up getting is insane. But it's like the ball's always he's already like missed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how did you not block that shot? And then you look at Stu, right? And it's like, how did you block that shot? Like it's just crazy to me, and it's so disappointing because it is like. One of those things that just like you should be able to do this, but
no, I'm with you. It's like I think I'm just coming around to the fact that it's some of but players with that build, right? I feel like if their instincts are better, they're in that position a bit earlier. But his is like, but on the flip side, if Durant had more of that quick twitch, like you said, it helps make up for that. And he still does. Like his athleticism still does help him make up for a lot of stuff. But I just don't think he's as quick twitch as some of those other like rim running bigs that are great shot blockers. But yeah, you brought up Stu. Oh yeah, you go.
I'll just say one last thing with Duren. I think I wonder if he never and they talk about how smart he is on the other end too. Like he does see the court really well. He seems to have a good vision for a big. It hasn't translated to the defensive side. He just doesn't have those instincts.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, he never had to develop them. Like, he is really athletic. He's always, and even for the NBA standards, like, he's still pretty athletic. It's just, like, because he's not processing the game quick enough, like, I think that's just as much of the issue. And he's, just not like a Sar who's even a tier above that. And he was saying like his rookie year, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just relying on athleticism. And now he's like, now I actually understand. So I can't wait to see that. But yeah,
Well,
I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I want to I want to ask you about Asar and the rotation when he comes back. But before I do just want to give Stu a shout out. He had a couple of fumbled passes, but I think that's just who he is at the end of the day. I thought he was excellent tonight. Like double. There was one play where Miami had a 2-on-1, no one else around. Stu breaks it up. Like I think Hero went to lob it to their rookie center. I can't remember his name, and Stu breaks it up, gets the stop.
Yep.
Like that stuff there, like there's no one else on the team. Maybe Cade could do that. Obviously Asar, but he's not playing. Like that's the stuff where I'm just like, this guy, I get why people maybe want to trade him sometimes, but I'm just like, he is so good defensively. And this season, like it's crazy. Like I get the offense is frustrating, but I'm just like, his defense is like him and Asar on the court together. If Stu can start shooting threes again, I'm going to love watching them too. So I think they're so good.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And unfortunately, Detroit had a challenge to play because they called a foul on him in that, and they won that challenge because he didn't touch Khalil wherever his name is. But I thought Stu was great, man. And even some of the fumbled things, it's like some of it was just not good passes either, where it's like you're throwing it into him low, and two guys are closing on him. Like some of that is you got to just know your guy. Like, don't try to lob it to him from beyond the 3-point line, even when a guy's fronting him. Like, there was a couple of those where it's like,
you're exactly right. Yeah.
And so but I thought he was amazing.
I thought he was really good. I kind of forgot about him, but I thought, when you mentioned his name before, I was like, wow, he had some really nice finishes as well. Like it always, I think last time you were on here, we were talking about how Stu finished around the rim, and you're like, that just does not look good at all. But it was going in tonight. Like it looks so like sometimes I feel like he's shooting it almost from his hip, like trying to just throw it in. But he had a couple of really nice ones that went in tonight. I thought he was really good. I want to ask you about Asar. I spoke about him with Cody just before, but his return, I think we're all so excited. But I'm just especially curious to hear your thoughts on how it affects the rotation. Obviously, if this team's healthy and everyone's available.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Assuming everyone's healthy, I will caveat this depending on what THJ. I did see that his CAT scan came back negative, so I don't think there's any major issues. Other than probably concussion protocol and like whatever. It was bad enough he had to get wheelchaired off. So I think he had lost enough blood too that he probably didn't have a lot of.
Off the top of your head, do you know, is the protocol like you can't play for 1 week if you have a concussion?
I don't think it's that rigid. I just think you have to pass like tests and have a certain number of days that you're clear or something like that.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's a little more nuanced than that. But I could see him being out for a week, depending on how the games shake out. So assuming that he's back, I don't see Asar taking his spot in the starting lineup. I just don't think you can put him and Duren next to each other. Like the only way, I think they do that is if they decide to start Stu, and bring Asar and Stu in, and then you have Duren with Fontecchio, Beasley, and THJ, excuse me.
Yep.
And then you have Ivy running the point. Obviously, you stagger that. That could be interesting. Ivy with 3 shooters and Duren. They had a lot of good chemistry last year in their rookie year. So, that could be interesting. But I don't think they're going to make that major of a shakeup, especially being 5 and 7, right? The reality is they're exactly where they want to be. And so I think they're going to keep things the same. I imagine Asar comes in, takes all of Ron's minutes, and then maybe you see him. I think that's where you start with Ron's minutes and kind of see what happens. I think he'll earn more minutes than that, and maybe you give THJ a breather. You take a little bit from Beasley and a little bit from THJ, a little bit from Tobias maybe. just so you're not wearing him down, just to kind of make up some of those minutes and play him at the 4.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Tech as well. Like Tech played probably one of definitely his top 2 games of the season tonight, maybe the best. But I think if he continues to struggle the way he has for most of the season, I kind of feel like I'm with you. I think Ron's minutes probably are all gone. Like it's just gonna be interesting if JB sticks to that 9-man rotation. If he sticks to 9, like a 9-man rotation, I think Ron is probably the odd one out. But I do think there might be some situations, depending on the other team, where maybe Tech misses out and they go to Ron for a little bit that game. But yeah, I agree with you on the most part. I think Ron, they're very similar players in what they offer. Obviously, Asar's better at most of that stuff and a better athlete and all that kind of thing. So it makes sense just to look at it that way.
And that's hard because Ron is like most of his minutes are good. Like he does some crazy stuff on the offensive glass. Why are you why are you taking a dribble step back mid-range 2 right now? Like what made you think that was the right idea? And so I think some of that is like, can you put him down in the G League and hope he doesn't do that there? Like, I don't know, right? Like that's what he was doing last year. So like, can you put him on a team and use the G League to kind of help him find a better spot in the offense? We'll see what happens with that. I think more of the issue is not so much that Ron has lost his minutes or like hasn't like earned what he's got, but like you can't play them together. You can't put Asar and Ron together. I don't think. Maybe you can. Maybe
my
if
thing
it's
is though, you're right, because with this version of Stu that's not shooting, you're always going to have a non-shooting big unless they have Tobias at the 5, which JB's done a tiny amount this season. That's the only way, because Stu, like I know he shot it well last year, but he's just not shooting. So like I can't.
Yeah, I guess you could do like a Cade, Ivy, Asar, Ron, and Tobias. Yeah. That would be interesting because then you have Asar can play the 4 and help Tobias on the weak side because he's a really good weak side rim protector. And then you let Ron just like go crazy with like the best wing offensive player. It would be interesting. Or you start. I remember part of the reason why Stu hasn't been shooting though is because of where he's been rotating into coverage. So like on the pick and pops, he's been popping into coverage, and so like that wasn't working. And so I wonder if you do have Ron and Asar playing, if that where like basically where they're cutting and moving, like that wing spot's open because they're not going to be shooting from the wing. They'll be. So I wonder if you can do something like that and see like if it's Cade, Beasley, Asar, Ron, and Stu. Like that's a lot of shooting around them, space, and then you kind of that's a defensive like. I would love that defensively. Like that would be fun to watch. So but I think mostly Asar is going to take Ron's spot right now. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, I'm nervous because JB doesn't use Ron in the pick and roll. Like he doesn't make him the roll man, which I think would be great for him.
Yeah,
but maybe he's not used to it enough, so they don't. Trust him in that.
I think in theory, like I could say, I just don't think Ron's a good enough athlete as Asar to do that, and he's very skinny. But
that's fair.
I think as he fills out, maybe for sure. But yeah, I think like that. I just want to see Asar and Ron on the court, even if it's like 2 minutes, because I feel like just watching them sprint up and down.
And I think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
like I believe JB as a defensive coach is going to want to see it.
Yeah,
and is going to think, hey, if it's those two in Cade and Stu, whatever, it's like, and Beasley or Beasley, it doesn't matter whoever the shooting guard is at that point. Like, probably Beasley or THJ when he gets healthy. Like JB's going to want to see it, or there's like we need to stop, and the starters are playing like crap. We need an energy shift, so we're going to.
Yeah, that's what someone. I can't remember if I tweeted out something or I read someone's comment or what, but it was after. Oh no, Ron made a really nice passing transition to Beasley for a dunk, and someone commented, "No matter what, Ron when he's on the floor brings great energy. Like even if he does ridiculous stuff like you mentioned, that
Mm-hmm.
mid-range step back, like I'm still thinking about that step back three he hit against the Hornets. Like I love the confidence, even if it like is so frustrating sometimes in the moment. But I think him and Asar
Yeah.
together, if Ron can continue to, because like Ron he sometimes just makes these really clever athletic plays where you're just like, I didn't expect that. Like, and um, I hope they can still find him minutes because I don't really see the G League benefiting him a whole heap. Like I just don't. But like the Pistons have said they actually want to use their G League more, so I don't know. But I think you can still find him minutes, even if it's just like a 2 minute, 3 minute patch here. Uh, I think he's done enough good stuff, and the energy he brings kind of helps his team at times.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think? Well, let me ask you this: if they start Asar, let's say they like move to that at some point,
Yeah.
that would leave you with, and if we're going 10-minute rotation, so that gets interesting because then you have THJ, Beasley, Tech, Ron, and Stu. There's no point guard there, so you're still staggering Caden Ivy, right? And so where do you rotate in like Beasley and THJ? Like, do you do you pull Ivy out really early so that there's always that shooter like next to them to help space a little bit? Because then you can kind of get away with like between Tobias and THJ / Beasley and Cade. Like, is that enough spacing with Asar and Duran on the floor?
Just like it's so tough because, like you said earlier, like if the Pistons continue on this like path of what, like they're 5-7 at the moment, like this sort of trajectory where they win one, they lose two, they win two, like, and they're constantly still relevant. It just makes no sense to take Tim Hardaway Jr. Like he's been so good. Like I think he's probably still shooting close to 50% from three. Like us, like this, like it's just really tough because I also don't like if you want to start Asar, just taking out Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't make sense. But I don't think you can take Ivy out, and I don't think you can't take Tobias out. Like he hasn't been great, but that doesn't make sense with like just even like.
Right.
Do you know?
And you're still gonna stagger. You're still gonna stagger.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is like it works out the way it works out, right? Like I don't think it's as terrible as it feels. But THJ is also leading the league in charges as the game before. So he's like, so there's things like that where he is contributing on that end. I do think it really depends on how healthy, like how long he's out, I think, to be honest. Because like if they're going to have to make an adjustment for the next game. So they're going to see it. They're going to see without him in it. So the interesting thing is, do they put in Tech or do they put in Beasley?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think they'll probably go Beasley just based off form, but he's so small to play at the three.
Or do they throw Ron in just to not mess up the rotations?
True.
Like just to keep things like it depends on how long THJ is going to be out, right? If it's going to be for 3 or 4 games, they probably mix it up because they can get into a different rhythm. If it's 2 games, do you just throw in like THJ? Will Asar be ready? Do they give him, I think that's where, depending on how long he's out, if he's out when Asar's ready to come back, Asar is going to start.
Yeah.
I'm like pretty sure. And so even if it's on a minute restriction, like why would you not run him with the starters and see how it goes? Right. Because that's where it gets interesting. Because if it actually works, that's where I think there's an opportunity.
Like, I think maybe if Fontecchio starts tomorrow, just thinking about it, like he just did have one of his best games. Shooter, 6'8". Taking him from the bench doesn't mess up as the rotation as much as it would putting Beasley in, like you kind of said. So maybe they go to Fontecchio. But yeah, I'm at like if you can play Cade, Ivy, Asar, Tobias, and Duran, and that looks good, then I think that would be an awesome outcome to finish the season. Because then you have, I know Duran's still got to prove so much defensively, but I just feel like that's kind of what that would be a great outcome if you can play those 4 plus a shooter at the 4. I want to ask you, just because you're the contract guru, Pistons obviously, I think we spoke about this last time, but the Pistons, Ivy and Durant are extension eligible. It's at the end of the season, right? I mean, that's when it's going to happen. It wouldn't happen during the season.
Yeah. So basically, they both got their options picked up, so they're under contract for next year already. Right.
Okay.
So they'll be on their number for next year. Ivy will be at 10.1 million. Duran will be at 6.5 million for next year already.
Is there any implications for the extension? Like, so say the Pistons extend Ivy, but they say to Duran, you've still got to show us, you got to do this, this, and this before an extension, or however it works. Like, does that actually affect anything long term if he doesn't sign this offseason? An extension? No.
No. And if anything, it's easier to trade him without the extension.
Okay.
Depending on what happens, because there's a poison pill thing that comes if he's already got the number versus like if they trade him, the other team can get his rights, and then it's a risk for them because but technically it's easier to trade him before the extension in terms of matching salary.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay. No, I was just curious because I like there is pressure on Durant to figure it out this season, obviously. But like we were just saying, or like just before, like if you can run that starting five with Asar in it and it actually really works, like I still think and you are a play-in team, say, I still think even with Durant's struggles defensively, you could still bring that back next season and be fine with it. With an extension with Ivy. I don't know. I'm thinking way too ahead now, but yeah. I think
it depends on whether you think you can get right. So Ivy's cap hold is like it's estimated based on the caps, 30.3 million, right? That's Ivy's cap hold. So Duran's cap hold is only 19.5. So do you think you're going to pay Duran less than $20 million a year? If you can get him extended for less than that, you do it now because we're going to create more cap space for yourself.
Okay.
I don't think Duran signs for less than that. Like if he's gonna he doesn't have any reason to sign that for less than his max unless he really is like hearing from his agent, you're not gonna get a shot anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be something to watch. I think the only way those two get us an extension this summer, at least Duran, I think the only Duran gets an extension this summer is if he actually signs for less than what he would take, and the Pistons feel like they got a good deal on it. And if it's like a kind of a prove it deal, but still gives him something, but is, more than he could get in the mid-level, so it'd probably be in that $18 million range starting. That saves him $1.5 million in cap, because they're not going to cut him. They're not going to do that. So,
I mean, and look, Dave Dalton, Pistons fanatic, who's been up here a heap, he said to me, at the end of the day, Durant is still on $4 million this season or something, $5 million. The production he gives you is still far exceeds that. But obviously and I understand the other side of it. I think
maybe you probably can find a minimum player to do what Durant does and actually play defense.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not saying for sure.
No. I'm trying to think. I just want to give him a bit more credit because I know I feel like I've called him out on his defense for sure. I just think he does do some things that are really beneficial, like the rebounding, when he rebounds like he did tonight as well.
He's at least playing up to his value.
And I just think there's no other player. Asar's not. When I say there's no other player, it's because Asar's not playing yet. There's no other player you can make that pass to at the end. And some of the lobs, I think he is kind of special in that way. But it's wow. Where do you want to take this, Kyle? And I'm sick of talking about Durant now.
Yeah, same.
He was solid tonight. He made some really good plays.
He was definitely not terrible. I think he did all right. Obviously, he gets the game-winning.
YouTube.
Listen, that's the thing. That's the thing about centers, man. Unless they're Joel Embiid or Jokic, they're always overpaid.
Yeah.
because you can get them a dime a dozen. Like you can get a guy who can run and dunk and block shots.
Yeah.
We don't like, and that's the thing. Like Duran does a lot of good things. He's a good offensive player. The Pistons don't need him to be that, and he's not a great offensive player, and so therefore he's not contributing to like the overall like flow of the team, if you will, right? Like he's better than Bagley, he's better than Wiseman. So like I don't want to complain too much, but like
no, I feel you, because it's like the passing even, and this is where I've kind of felt like it's great, but it's never going to be like you're never going to run the offense through Durant like you would obviously Jokic, but it's like it's a nice tertiary or whatever it's just a nice thing to have, but it's like it's never going to be a staple of the offense. I don't know, but
is like we should move on. I'll say this, and then people can think about this. Is Duran better than Mason Plumlee? Like what he does he contribute to winning more than Mason Plumlee did when he was here? Think about it, and then go look what Mason Plumlee's getting paid. So,
no, it's a fair call.
Like, and Duran's not going to sign for a $10 million contract. Like that's what I'm saying. Like he's going to want at least $20 million.
Yeah,
because that's what Capella's getting, right? Like,
I do not envy being a GM. I think all the way back when we were doing the home court, we asked a question like, would you rather be a GM or a coach? And I think I said coach because I had just contracts and all. I know you would like to be a GM.
Yeah,
I just contracts extending players. Like that Durant decision is so tough, I feel like. I feel like the easiest thing to do is just trade him because then you don't have to worry about paying him.
YouTube user says Plum Dog can't block shots or space vertically. Yeah, but Durant only does the spacing vertically thing. Like, so anyway, we should move on. I don't know where else we're gonna go with this, but it does bother me. Like, Stewart is top 3 in rim protection in the league right now. He's a top 3 rim protector in advanced in the stats, like advanced stats, and it shows.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I don't want to start the like we need to start Stu conversation because I don't really know if I believe that, but and they're not going to because they need to figure out what Duran can be.
I think just on that, I think Stu's just like in the perfect role. And like they were in the Atlanta game and the Houston game. Obviously, they could have won both, and Stu was fine. But I just feel like tonight, at least, I didn't feel like there was that offensive rebounding issue. Like I really didn't feel that. Whereas I'd felt that in the past 2 or 3 games when Durant was absent for 2.5 of them. So, and
and that's fair. That's totally fair.
I think Stu's just in such the perfect role for him. And like when you get a game like tonight, shout him out. But I think he's going to be consistent there, and you get the most value there. But the rim protection stuff is very, very interesting.
And I like where Stu is at. I agree. I guess here's my question for you, Jack.
Yeah.
If starting Stu meant you also get to start Asar.
Oh, this is good. Okay, so with this scenario, like Stu's back to how he was last season, shooting threes.
Yeah, so it means he would be a floor spacing, but to be using him and Asar would maybe take turns in the rolling, like the roll man kind of thing. But like the premise is starting Stu gives you the spacing to feel comfortable enough to start Asar.
I think I'd say no. I would say no, and it's purely because I think what Tim Hardaway Jr. is doing for Ivy and Cade is very valuable. And I think also Cade relies heavily to be able to get into the paint to have like someone who can roll and who can catch bounce passes or lobs. I think that opens up so much for Cade that I would say no. But if Stu was... Yeah, I think I'd just say no, even though I think it's a very good question.
That's fair.
I just think what they have right now is, like we've spoken about, just working well enough. And it's not perfect, but I think it's working well enough to where I just like Hardaway Jr., what he's bringing as an elite shooter there.
So partly what I hear,
partly
what I'm hearing. So here's an implication of what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're kind of saying, not totally, because you're talking about right now, but you're kind of saying that Duran is more important to this team than Asar is.
Oh no, because I'm saying
It's a roundabout because here's my logic, right? Because you're
yeah,
saying you'd rather get Duran with Cade because you think that's more important than having a Sar get starting experience and seeing what he can be. Because at some point, if you cannot play a Sar and Duran together, you have to pick one. Sounds like you're
absolutely.
picking Duran. Sounds like you're picking Duran.
No way. No way. If you ask me the question, who am I picking? I'm picking
Sure.
Asar, and it's
Okay,
not close.
so
I would take
then how do you?
Holland over Durant because of the positional
Okay,
value. Because I just think
so
a
then
wing that can, yeah,
So are you saying then? Would you say then at this point? You're just saying at this point, Asar can get what he needs to get off the bench.
yeah. I think he can. I truly think he can. Like, I think he can get 25 really like impactful minutes there or more,
Yeah,
and you can close
I
with him.
I think I agree.
Yeah,
I think I agree with that.
I think it's more about what Tim Hardaway Jr. is bringing right now. Like,
Which is
just
super
right
helpful.
now. Yeah, like obviously long term he's not going to be here, but I just think he's been so good, and they're really going to miss him however long he's out for.
Right.
Um,
And I think, and to YouTube users' point that Asar doesn't need to start to develop. He can grow as a second unit player. I agree with you. I agree with all those things. But the heart of the question is, or like the unspoken part of the question is, if Asar and Dern cannot play together,
yeah,
they just can't. Or maybe you think that they can eventually, but he needs to develop on the bench. But if he's not playing against a rim running big on the bench, is he going to develop what he needs to be able to do that? Like, those are ifs, right? And maybe you think they can.
yeah.
But at some point, you need to see if they can play together because you need to decide what to do. If you think Asar is more important, then you need to see if Duran fits with Asar, not if Duran fits with Kate.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and there's like,
Cool.
you're balancing the winning now and you're balancing the, like, how do we continue to win games and develop these guys? But at some point, you need to see these guys on the court together. And if you think they can't, and if you've already decided that they can't, how are you continuing to play Duran? Or you're or you're saying we don't have the space to develop Asar, even if we think he's more important. And I think that's hard.
Yeah. No, it's I think that question about Asar and Durant's all off season, people were talking about it. I think like there is some numbers that show, like Cody actually brought them up, but like lineups with just Fontecchio and that core four last year were actually like decent. They were getting like a plus net rating. So like I think sometimes we get just not you specifically, but sometimes we get a little bit bogged down in just like trying to make sure that there's four shooters and it on paper all makes sense than like how it actually plays out. But I think like long term, like if it doesn't matter who he's playing with. If Duran could play with four shooters, if he can't defend, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
and I think I agree with you.
Yeah. Because you have to pay these guys. And I think it's just like once some YouTube user put up Nick Claxton. I wanted the Pistons to go sign Nick Claxton this offseason. Like, what a disaster that could have been.
Or maybe it wouldn't have been if he was playing with a real point guard and not for
True.
a team that's trying to tank. And even though they're playing well right now,
Yeah.
like, you don't know. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to say. But yes, I like on paper, Claxton might be a better fit with everything going on, but not at that price tag. Like, especially when you have Duran who can do
what
stuff.
What did he sign for in the end? Was it like 4 for 80 or 4 for 86 or something?
I think it was around that 20 million. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, I think it just, and I've been saying this over and over again, they have too many mouths to feed. They have too many guys who are trying to develop. Not all of these guys are going to be here. I started writing this like 3 years ago for DBB. I wrote an article about Sadiq. I remember it was like, and I did a whole study on the average number of homegrown drafted players on championship teams.
Yeah.
The average number is like 2.5.
Yeah.
At least it was. I think with the Nuggets winning recently, it kind of bumped it up a little bit because they had a bunch on theirs. But like most teams, if you're not the Spurs and the Warriors, have one, maybe two guys that they actually drafted playing like rotation level minutes. That's not even starters, just rotation level minutes. Like that's just not how teams are built. Like at some point, because you can't pay everybody, the timelines don't match.
Yeah.
You have to trade and develop guys and trade them out and fit guys that actually work. You know, I thought that Troy Weaver's drafting well at the time. So it's like, okay, yeah, he's doing the right thing. They don't all fit, but he's drafting talent. Eventually you trade talent to get guys that fit. That never happened, right? He was terrible in his trades. He didn't hit on the value picks at the end. Like, so he failed in that measure. Trajan's going to have to do that. And he didn't draft these guys. So at some point, he's going to consolidate. He has to. And he's going to prioritize because he has to.
I think ultimately in like 2 or 3 years, how many of those 5 lottery picks do you think are on the team?
1. Maybe.
Really?
1.
I think there'll be 2.
It won't be who you think it is.
Can I just want to guess then? Or is it Ivy?
That's what I think.
Really? That's so interesting. And I've seen plenty of other people, not plenty, sorry. But is that because you just think they'll use Cade to go get a heap more picks?
Sorry, you hear that, guys? Can you hear them?
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry, 1 second.
So you think?
Yeah, keep asking your question. No, keep asking your question.
So I was just going to say, so if you think Cade's gone, what makes you think Asar will be gone as well? If Ivy stays?
Asar's interesting. It could be Asar. You said 2 to 3 years, so I could see maybe 2. And but Ron, he drafted Ron, who kind of, again, if Ron ends up being that guy and they both don't really develop totally as offensive players, like I could see that being a struggle. But I think they're going to have to trade K to get resources to really make a move. But my son is screaming, I love you all. I have to go.
You just left us on this cliffhanger, but no, please leave.
I might be able to come back in 5 minutes. I'll let you know. But
no, you're good, man. All right. Thank you for joining us, Kyle. Appreciate you, man. Have a good night. All right, guys. I don't think I agree with Kyle on that one. I think Cade is probably the one player that will definitely be here, but I appreciate his insight. I'm going to go through some comments now, guys. Sorry I didn't get to these earlier. I'm a little bit all over the place and we've got the flu right now, so bear with me. I'm going to go through some of these. Hashimoto, Jack, you got to put sunscreen on, man. You look crispy. Yeah, I think I got a bit burnt yesterday in the sun. It's summer here, so Stu is the Giannis whisperer. He is. I'm pretty sure I tweeted out some stats over the off season. I'm gonna go dig those up ahead of tomorrow's game. But Stu, I think, held Giannis to the lowest field goal percentage of anyone last season, and the Pistons played the Bucks 4 times, so it was a decent sample size. Compared to everyone else. Lakers shot. Did we just witness a Chris Webber moment in Michigan with Jalen Rose courtside? We certainly did. Cody brought that up. I didn't even think of the Jalen Rose connection, but we definitely did witness that. Alan, my man, this team is shortening my life. That game was one of the craziest I've ever watched. I'm with you on this. I think I've definitely gained some wrinkles after that one. I think these 4 words here is how everyone was feeling. Like the highs of that, but also just feeling like we were about to have another heartbreaking loss. 5 and 7, absolutely. I think Kyle mentioned it. I'm going to check it now, but I think the Pistons are 7th, which is after 12 games. I couldn't tell you the last time they were. Yes, they're currently sitting 7th. I seriously, the only time I can think they were this high, this far into the season would have had to have been like the last time they made the playoffs in 2019. Like I remember the 1920 season with Derrick Rose and that season, I think they started like 4-4, but I think pretty quickly they fell down to the bottom and eventually tanked. So to be sitting 7th at this point of the season is huge. DP, who called that timeout? I still can't believe that was Eric Spoelstra, but we'll had 2 people confirm it now, so it must have been. Yeah, I agree a little bit, Alan. Like, I think there was certainly some spots where he should have got free throws or at least a foul, but I think it was a physical game, and I don't know. I think I just don't have the normal sympathy because some of the turnovers he made were just bemusing to me. So maybe that's unfair of me, but that's just how I feel. All praise to Coach Spo. We should have lost. Yeah, I think I think I tend to agree with you, Drew. It probably, if that goes to double overtime, I wasn't feeling confident. So I'm with you on that. Pistons NBA Cup winners 2K24. Hey, they're 1-0. YouTube user, I think Cade and Durant are a good pairing. Ivy and Stu are good together. I don't like Cade with Stu. Yeah, I think some of the passes I think Cade tries to pull off to Stu. Like obviously they're good passes. Stu just can't catch them. Like so, Cade's used to playing with like Durant in the pick and roll, who's got much better hands. So I don't think I hate Stu and Cade together, but I hope in the next 15 games we get to a point where Stu was where he was last season, a 3-point shooter. Because with Asar coming back, I think they need him to be that, or else the spacing is going to become an issue again. Because even if Ron's not playing, I just think to get the best out of Asar, you need to have Stu shooting threes if they're going to play together. Mr. E, it's always turnovers. Like I was hoping JB would fix that. I feel you. I think JB's fixed a lot so far, so I'm not going to get on him too much for the turnovers. I think honestly, half of these turnovers are, well, I think all the turnovers are committed by the players, but some of them are just like mind-boggling. Like I'm not going to single out players right now, but some of those turnovers were extremely frustrating. I don't know how you can pin that on JB too much. Yeah, I think this is a fair take, DP. Not mad at Cade. Glad to see him take these games over at the end. Just got to be safer with that ball. I'll be honest, I was pretty mad with him. This is probably the first game I've been genuinely mad with him, but he did make that clutch kind of pull up at the elbow to give the Pistons back a 1-point lead. And he did make a crazy on-point pass to Jalen Duren to tie it up. So, he made plays. He just also made probably more bad plays tonight in the clutch, but the Pistons won. So, like I said earlier, as long as they're winning, I'm going to find it very hard to be negative on this team for too long. Bryce Scott, just some points here. 1, JD must play motivated. He looked checked out at times. 2, shooters must make shots. 3, late game turnovers must deplete. Highlight player of the game, Beef Stew. I agree with all of that. I thought the shooters were pretty good for the most part. Like Beasley made big shots. Fontecchio made shots. Hardaway Jr. made shots when he was in. Tobias even was 2 or 4. I think the shooters made their shots tonight. But I agree. Stu was huge. He went a bit under the radar for me just because I got lost in the ending of that game. But he was awesome. So DP, Kyle gave an update before. It sounds like there's no major damage or anything to the back of his head, but I think we would all assume he's going to be out for the next couple of games with the concussion protocol. So I would, just based on the amount of blood and how long it took him to leave the court and that kind of thing, I think he'll be gone for at least the rest of this week and maybe a game or 2 next week. Pistons next. X factor of the game, Coach Spo. He did come through. The the Pistons are blessed. Like I tweeted out, like they always lose these games, so they finally got some luck. But yeah, Coach Spo is literally the last coach in the NBA you would expect to make that mistake. So it's crazy. Dante Massey, is Ivy good? He was limping before he fouled out. I think he's good. I think he just got hit on one of the turnovers. I'm not sure if it was an ankle or maybe a contusion in like his calf or thigh, but I think he was fine. He only didn't finish the game because of foul trouble. Patrick calling out my guy Cody. Cody, be quiet. A win is a win. We fought hard for you. It can't help it when somebody's that hot from three. Is what it is. It's basketball. He was the man with the hot hand. Oh, look, I appreciate your comment, Patrick. I don't necessarily disagree. I think a lot of what you say is true, but I get why Cody was frustrated. I get both sides. I'm sitting on the fence. Got to back up my guy. Did you watch Asar last year? He couldn't dribble. I seriously doubt he's capable of creating this year. Yeah, I think his handle is very loose at times, but I actually went back and watched every one of his assists for some reason over the off season, and I actually forgot earlier in his rookie season some of the good things he did as a pick and roll creator and some of the bounce passes he was able to make. But I know we're talking about his handle here. I don't think. I mean, at least I don't expect him to be handling the ball that much, but I think just his ability to drive and use his athleticism and, you know, like, and make plays in the paint, like even if hasn't got the tightest handle, I just still think the Pistons severely lack anyone else outside of Caden Ivey that can attack the rim. Like, and I know Asar's not an ISO guy or anything like that, but I think he can still, in situations, if you get him on the move, can attack the paint and have some really good finishes. So, the handle still has to improve a heap. Like I would argue the handle, getting that to a good to elite level is more important than the 3-point shot for his career. Like honestly. So like you see what his brother Amen can do, who has a much better handle. Like, you know, even if Amen never gets a jumper, like he's still going to be a great NBA player on both sides. At least I believe. Drew Thomas, Sasa going for 50. Oh, I think, yeah, with Hardaway Jr. out, they're definitely going to need some more shooting. So obviously they'll have to go a bit smaller. Sasa last year had his first game in Milwaukee around this time of the year did drop like 26, and they almost won that game. And that was last year's Pistons. So he has had some good games there. So we'll see. I think I'm with you, Silent Void. After this, I'm going to go get some fresh air because that was stressful. Oh, Alan coming through, watching the G League team. They looked incredible today. Cole, is it Cole Swider? Is him? I remember him on the Lakers getting some minutes and Lakers fans going crazy about him. I think he's a pretty good shooter. So might have to watch some Motor City Cruise hoops. Shout out to Jonathan, just tuning in now. I was there in person. That was a crazy game. That would have been an insane game to be at because you must have been wondering what the hell was going on after that lob, because at least on the broadcast, you can hear them talking about the tech. In the stadium would have been so confusing, but I'm glad they got the win for you. I think that's going to do it, guys. Derek Brown. Derek Brown. Pistons make me go live with Jack. You're the man. Yeah, we'll have to get Alan. I'm not sure if Alan's free to come up, even, but I'm gonna have to jump off soon because my throat is killing me. But I appreciate Derek, and I can't wait to get Alan back up here, hopefully for next stream. But yeah, it's in Australia. It is currently 3:34 p.m. So yeah, early afternoon. Pistons make me, yeah, next time. Let's do it. I have to get my Aussie man back up. All right, guys, that's going to do it. As Cody mentioned before he jumped off, really want to get some fresh faces up here. Obviously, love having all the returning guests, and anyone who's been on before can come on as many times as they like. But if you want to come up, have a chat with me, talk through the game, talk through anything Pistons or anything else, please DM me ahead of time, or you can DM me during the stream. It's just a bit harder for me to get to it. But all you need is your phone, computer, and you just click on the link and you're up here within seconds. So we'll be back tomorrow after hopefully another win against the Bucks. But until then, as always, go Pistons.